Welcome, everybody. Today, we are so excited to be journeying through Jordan. I'm Kathy Larson, co-owner of Sydney Departures Travel, along with Kathy Scott, who also owns the Departures Travel in Oak Bay. And we're so excited to have Omar Benihani from Jordan Tourism Board from North America. Where are you based in North America?
I'm in the Washington, D.C. area.
Washington, D.C. And
Happy
Avril,
to be here with you.
yeah, thank you. And Avril Matthews is our Canadian representative from the Jordan Tourism Board. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So maybe Omar and Avril, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became, well, Omar, born and raised in Jordan. So we'll start with you.
Yeah, it was, I moved to the U.S. 2004. I went to school here, and then I did my master's. I started the job with the tourism board as an intern. And fast forward now, it's been about 11 years with the tourism board North America, working with travel trade, consumers, media. Yeah, love it. Been to Jordan with so many of my North American friends in the industry to show them what it's all about. And it's been a fun journey, telling everybody about what wonders that Jordan have to offer. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Almost not a job to be able to take people back to your home country.
It's the best.
Yeah, nice. And Avril?
Well, I have a similar experience being able to take people to Jordan with me, but my background is I'm a hotelier in my past and had worked for one hotel for 16 years, had the world's smallest office, not even with windows. And I decided late in my life that it was time for me to make a big change and I wanted to see the world. And as luck would have it, I made the move on May 1st in 2017, and on May 7th I was sitting on a plane to Jordan. Oh, so mission accomplished.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to represent the country of Jordan here in Canada to consumers and to trade, and have been able to go myself several times and take consumers with me, travel agents with me, and while I'm not Jordanian, there's, it's hard to collect a paycheck and do that too, because it's so darn fun. So it's an easy country to sell.
Yeah.
You've been adopted as a Jordanian.
Oh, good. Well, I have my Jordanian shirt on, so, there you
go. That's great. I actually was in Jordan early last year. So I'm interested to hear a little bit. And first of all, it was absolutely outstanding. I loved it and loved every moment that I was there. And I would have gone longer had I known how much I would have loved it. But so just Omar, how are things over there right now?
The current situation in Jordan, just like many other destinations, we're monitoring the situation really closely, making sure that everybody is safe in the country to begin with, make sure that we're working on policies and regulations to ensure the safety of everybody that's going to come visit us in the near future. Things are good in Jordan at the moment. It's just that it's just a waiting game, just a little longer, and we'll be able to all go back and travel to all the fun places that we want to be going to soon. Me included. I want to go home and see the family as well, and I can't wait till that happens. But everything is going well in Jordan, and we're just, cannot wait for people to come and see us soon.
That's great. So Avril, you're going to just take us through your journey because you have some fantastic pictures. So let's just take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm so excited to do this because my poor family, I have subjected them to looking at all my pictures more than once. So now I have a fresh audience. I get to show you all my pictures. So this is my happy place for sure. So yeah, so I always like to start off with where exactly is Jordan, just to landmark it. Not everybody knows exactly where it is. So there you have it. It's right there, and it's surrounded by some interesting countries. Very, very safe in Jordan. And one of the funny things that Jordanians say is that they have noisy neighbors. So it's pretty low key once you get to Jordan. And here's the city of Amman. And honestly, this is not one of my pictures, but this city stretches as far as the eye can see. So the population in Jordan is about 9 million, and about 4 million live in Amman. So now some of these are mine, but what I love to point out to people is if you look in that far left corner there, you can still see the city going. It is massive. And so, and very densely populated. So I took this picture from the Citadel, which is the highest hill in Amman. But I took this picture really to show people that Roman theater there that you can see in the middle. It's a miraculous sight. This picture I took because these were literally the crowds you would have to wade through to get in to see this. So clearly not overrun with tourists. But what I always tell people about Jordan is you don't have to go far to see the history, that it's baked into everything. It's like the city grew up around all this amazing history so that you don't have to drive hours and hours to see it. It's already there. So this Roman Colosseum is right beside a huge market called the Souk. So it's all just there. So it's very convenient. Yeah, so this one, this Roman theater, I believe is from the 1st century AD. So pretty impressive, and it seats 6,000 people. To give you a sense of the scale. So now we are up on that citadel, and this is one of the buildings up there, and you can go inside. It's quite impressive inside. And in fact, what I would just let everybody know is that Coldplay released their most recent album in November, I think, Omar.
It was, yeah, November 16, I believe.
So if you want to see a live video of a beautiful scape of the city and the people and the children of Jordan, if you just look it up on YouTube, Coldplay Amman or Coldplay Amman, you'll see it, and it's absolutely stunning. I would have.
Sorry, I believe the album is called Everyday Life, and they did a sunrise and a sunset too. So it's a 2-disc album, and you could see both. They did the sunrise, and they actually did it live on YouTube. It was quite spectacular.
It was incredible.
Something you can still find. Yeah, really, really nice.
And the album is good too. So this is the other major site that you go up there to see is the Temple of Hercules. So you can see part of Hercules' hand there. And, and then surrounded by this modern, vibrant city around you. And, you can hear all the calls to prayer. You can see the birds fly. It's really quite an impressive sight. So, and that's right in downtown Amman.
Is that a large hand down there?
Yeah, that's part of Hercules' hand.
Oh, cool.
They did not find the statue. They that's just part of the statue that was originally there, and they just found the hand, and they just left it there. Wow. Really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. So if anybody, if you ask anybody who knows me, it's always about the food. It's all about the food and the people. So these are some of my shots. I'll say that large table, the view that you get there on the right, that was a dinner for 8 people. So Jordanians are not happy until you're busting. And I'm always happy to oblige. The food is unbelievable. It's an easy place for people to go if they're vegetarian. You can easily travel in Jordan for that, but it has all kinds of different foods. The middle photo is a food cart that's on Rainbow Street, which is a street in downtown Amman. And these nuts that look like nuts are actually fava beans, I believe.
Yes.
And they're salty and delicious. So I was all over that. That appeals to me a lot. And then Omar, this photo here on the upper left, what can you describe that? Because all I would say is it was absolutely delicious.
That is called kufta b'tahiniya. So a lot of people in North America know what tahini sauce is if you've been to a Middle Eastern place. And they also, if you've eaten at a Middle Eastern restaurant as well, you know what kufta or kebab is. So this is basically a kebab dish, or basically the same spices with some meat and parsley and so forth. And they cook it in the oven, and then eventually they finish it off with some tahini sauce on top, which is basically tahini and lemon juice and a little salt. It's really simple, but it's absolutely delicious. So that's actually one of my favorite dishes in Jordan.
It's
highly recommended.
It's unbelievable.
So the food that's on the table there, it looks like you would have tapas or pupus in Hawaii, but it looks like a lot of like small plate shares.
I could tell you a little bit about that. So typically for a lunch or dinner in Jordan, what we do is so Jordanians eat a lot of chicken, beef, and lamb, and usually there's one dish that is one of those. Basically that's the main dish. So it comes with rice and a protein, one of the ones I just mentioned earlier. But then before that happens, the first thing comes in is the meze, which is, maybe tapas in Arabic. But meze is, you get the cold meze and then the warm meze. So they're basically starters. But we go overboard with starters. So you have like 6 different kinds or 7 different kinds of starters. You all come in at the same time.
Yeah.
So salads are starters. Some, small portions of cooked dishes as well. So you could see in there, you're gonna find things like hummus is a staple on every meal. But one other thing we love is that sometimes we just have like chopped up vegetables on the side, like green onions and basically scallions and maybe some onions as well, olives, the different kinds of olives, and also pickles and stuff like that. These are staple on every table. It's not it just all comes in all together. So you sit there, a lot of times what happens, and maybe Avril can corroborate that,
Yes.
is a lot of visitors that come in and start seeing all that coming in and they indulge, they go all in, and then they get the main, the main dish, and everyone's like, what is going on?
That is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So we tell people, just, you have all these things out there, just try some from everything, but leave a little bit for the main course.
Yeah.
But also one other thing that's important about this to know for different diets is that a lot of these foods are vegetarian, so you never have to compromise on flavor or quality. You can just sit on any table and then just choose the one, some of the things that you can eat that are vegetarian. They're just the same things that you would eat with everybody else. So it's not necessarily, you're never going to have to compromise, really. So that's always a good thing for people traveling in Jordan with different restrictions and diet.
The food was spectacular.
Yeah. And then, Kathy, I'm sure when you were there, you had one of these lemon mint drinks served everywhere. And it's on a hot day and you've been touring around and then you come into a restaurant and you have this. So it is a combination of lemon juice and sugar and mint. But honestly, it's intense. Like the lemon, it's like super sour and sweet all at the same time. It's delicious. And I've tried them here in Yala. I live here in Victoria, and that there's a Jordanian restaurant called Yala here, and they have it, but it's not anywhere near as good as it is in Jordan. So delicious. And these are some pictures. That table that I showed you here, that big table with all the food, was at this restaurant on the left called Sufra. And this is another example of a beautiful restaurant in downtown Amman. Amazing. And then because I'm all about the food, so this is one of my photos, and the markets, from all the spices, and everything is so different. And the people are so gracious. You can see that smile on that gentleman's face with the blue shirt on, because I probably tasted pretty much everything in there, and I leave Jordan like a drug runner because I have all of these bags of spices and stuff because I just have to have them. I mean, it's just so incredible. So lovely. And then, people always are asking me, well, what are the hotels like? And so I chose, of course, to show you some of the 5-star hotels. And these are only some of them. I mean, there's endless, but there's everything. There's a full scale, Holiday Inns and Best Westerns right through to these beautiful, beautiful hotels. And these 3 are the newest ones on the scene. But they have 4 seasons, and so easy for accommodation, that's for sure. And so outside of Amman, you drive about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes to the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is really quite something. This is a photo taken from, this is at the Kempinski Hotel, the Kempinski Ishtar Hotel at the Dead Sea. And this is a photo that I took from my balcony. They have a series of pools and everything it's fantastic. The hotel inventory in this area is amazing. And it's really all about health and wellness in this region. So gorgeous spas and hammams and beautiful pools to lay around at, and restaurants and lounges and bars and everything. It's really quite impressive. And mostly because the beach is not the kind of beach you would want to put your towel down and lay on. It's a bit of a hostile environment. So it's quite rocky and extremely salty. So typically that's why the hotels have such beautiful pools, and they have numerous that you can pick from. And so you go down and you do your thing in the Dead Sea, which I'll show you some pictures of, and then go back to, you can shower. They usually have freshwater showers right on the beach, and then back to the hotel pools. So this just gives you a sense of what the seashore is really quite amazing. So this is actually, this gentleman would probably kill me if he knew. He's one of my people that I took the last time I was there. Really fun guy. Anyways, all to say that, we all know that you can really float in this water. You can't not float is the bottom line. When you go to try and put your feet down, it's difficult. So it is, you see that classic where someone's reading a book in the Dead Sea. And that's absolutely possible. In fact, it's approximately 30 times saltier than any other salt water in the world. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. And so what you do here, so this is, I'm there, and these are some of the other people that I had taken with me. It's a bit of a ritual. So I said, it's all about the health and wellness. And so they very unceremoniously dig up the mud from the bottom of the sea, because that's where all the nutrients and minerals are. And they put them, you can see those like at the bottom there by our legs, there's tubs, if you will, or cutouts in that deck where they put the mud. And so there's nothing else in that but just straight up mud. And then you can cover yourself in that mud. And then in theory, you let it dry. And it's not unlike a mud mask that you would, if you've ever used one of those, you kind of let it dry until it gets kind of cracked. And then you go into the water and you let the water slowly take it off. And this is a really wonderful detoxifying way to experience it. And most people put it on their face and on their hair. My skin is too sensitive. I couldn't do that, but you'll see the people that I was with certainly did. And yeah, so it's quite the environment. And I've been told, and Omar, maybe you can tell me if this is true, but in theory, what you would do is do this 3 times a day, or 3 times at once, and then 3 times a day. I'm not sure my skin could take it, but suffice to say, it's not a bad way to spend the day. And that picture there in my hand are the salt crystals that are along the side. So a nice little keepsake to come back home with. Say, oh, those, no big deal. That's just from the Dead Sea. So. Yeah, and then Petra. So I'm sure everybody knows Petra, and thank goodness for it. It certainly does put Jordan on the map. It is incredible. It delivers, it just gives me goosebumps just to think about that whole experience. And the experience is so much more than just this one great building, the treasury. It's literally the entire experience. As you walk in, you walk through the souk, and you're walking through a very narrow, rosy colored rock scape that you walk through, and you can see this bright blue sky on top, and then you're going through this. It's just incredible. So when this peeks out in that classic photo like this here, when it peeks out from that side, it's really a moment. I mean, I've brought people there and they're moved to tears at this point, because this is really a lifetime, something that people are looking to their whole life to do, a bucket list moment. And it is pretty phenomenal. So you can't see me there beside the camel, but I'm there. And then this is, they do this 3 times a week where they light not only the treasury, but they light the entire path in. It's incredible. And that's quite a moving experience. And then, so once they get the crowd there, they serve tea. The Bedouins come along and serve mint tea on these trays, and you have that. And then there's a gentleman who plays the flute. And then sometimes they do a light show, they just light the treasury building with different colored lights. It's a very beautiful experience. So my recommendation personally is, if you're going, that you get there and you do this by night first, because all these rock faces are lit by the moon. And then when you go back in the daytime, it's a completely different experience. It's really incredible. And so these photos are to show you that it's so much more than that one major building, the treasury. So this building here on the right is called the monastery. And that's up a series of 900 stairs to get there. So it's not for the faint of heart. I thought, oh, 900 stairs, no big deal. I can do this. Thank God there were stops along the way, because it's not 900 commercial stairs that have been perfectly built at. It's 900 historic stairs that are all varying in different shapes and sizes. But just to give you a sense of scale, there is a man standing down. You can see him by that column. That's a full-grown man. So this is, so people know that one building, but I don't know how many people are aware of these other treasures that exist there. And then all of these other buildings that you can see on the left, or buildings or caves, in many cases, you can go right in. You can see the remains of the smoke on the inside of the rock face from fires and so on. It's pretty incredible. And this will show you even more. So, people always ask me, how long should I stay at Petra? And I say, well, how long is a piece of string? I mean, it's an area to explore. Kids love this too. I mean, it's a great place to bring kids. But yeah, I mean, I've done it in one 12-hour day, but it just depends on how mobile you are and how much you want to do. But you could easily spend a couple of days there for sure. And
I would say that too. We did one long day, but it was honestly so much more, as you say, than you could have been imagined. And we could have spent easy 2 days there quite happily.
Yeah, I would agree. And then this, so this is in a hotel. It's actually a Marriott. That's just a short taxi ride from Petra, where we stayed last. And this view is what really moved me. Like, Omar, is this mountain range considered part of Petra? I think it's in the Petra region.
It is. So this is about a 15-minute drive up from Wadi Musa. So Wadi Musa city is where Petra exists, and then you just drive up about 15 minutes just up the hill, and you get to this area. And they built a few hotels there just because they couldn't build right in the Wadi Musa area because it's really crowded with a lot of establishments. And the beautiful part of it is that you can see these mountains. This is what you see in front of you is part of Petra. Petra is actually right in the middle of those mountains.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. You can see Aaron's tomb actually from up there. So it's so many hikes in Petra as well. For the hikers, you can even come in through the back entrance through Petra. Hiking in, you actually start at the monastery, and then you take the steps down, and then you take the way up to the treasury and so forth. And then there are some you can go to Aaron's tomb. I think it's the hardest one to get to. It takes about 6 hours, I believe, to get up there. But from this hotel where you're standing, at this photo, for this photo, you could see on a clear day the top of the hill that has, or the mountain that has, Aaron's tomb on it. Some people actually bring some binoculars with them, and it's fun. And what you probably can't see here is that there's a pool behind this man standing there. I cut the pool off. So yeah, the pool and that area is wonderful.
Yeah, and at first light, I've been up early to watch the sun rise over this, and I mean, this is a very small shot of what seems like an endless scape in front of you. It's unbelievable. I mean, honestly, I've never seen the Grand Canyon, but I can't imagine it being much more spectacular than this. And yeah, and then sunset, same thing. It's absolutely magical. Yeah. And then moving into Wadi Rum. Wadi Rum is a desert area, and it's really quite something. I would highly recommend it. It's often the backdrop to any movies that are filmed in space. You'll find have been typically filmed here because the sand is definitely red, and the rock formations are just incredible, very odd and unusual. So again, just another completely different experience in such a small country. So this is my crazy picture of this train that's behind me is the train that was used when they filmed the movie Lawrence of Arabia. And so you can climb all over this train and stuff, but this is the classic tourist shot. So I shouldn't be left out of that. So I took this one. Yeah, lots of fun. But just to give you some sense of what this landscape looks like. So typically the Bedouins in that area will take you out for Jeep safaris at sunset, and you go camel safaris in the morning to see the sunrise. And there you can see there on the right, these two gentlemen are making some mint tea, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's just amazing.
Beautiful.
And then here's some of the camels. So, this is sort of the camels that I went out on one morning for sunrise. So that's why the light is a little bit odd. It's just, this was a sunrise experience. So, and I have no experience with camels. In fact, I'm terrified of horses. So going near a camel is like times 10 for me. But they're pretty docile, and they're not, you can see they're together, they're tied together. So they're not going to go running off into the desert with you on their back. So this is my nervous face. Yeah. And that whole way they get up and get down, like that's the end of me. Like it took everything I had to do this, but everybody else on my trip was like, oh, it was great. It was great. So it was worth it. I would highly recommend it. So we're still in Wadi Rum now, and so when you're there, you camp with the Bedouins, and it's more like glamping than camping. And of course, there's no restaurants to go to, so it's an all-inclusive experience. And so I had to put this picture in because this bread that this gentleman is cooking is my absolute favorite bread of all time. It's very thin, and it's called shirak, right, Omar? Because I say Chirac, but it's probably Chirac. Probably
Chirac, yes.
Chirac. And so they when it comes off of this dome, they fold it up and then they rip it into chunks. And so you take one of those chunks, and I'm usually their steady customer begging for the whole thing and so that's what you would dip into the hummus and tabbouleh and just eat it on its own. It's
just delicious.
Looks great.
Yeah. And then these are some pictures of some of the camps. So this camp on the left here is where I stayed. It was called the Captain's Camp. And some others. And you can see on the right, there's a dome back there. And those are also quite popular. They're calling them bubble tents or dome tents. And I probably should have added a picture on here that show, because there's some camps that are solely that. And they're pretty incredible because the way they're designed, when you're laying in bed at night, you can see the stars, which feel like they're directly above your head because there's no ambient light in Wadi Rum. So stargazing is absolutely phenomenal.
Beautiful.
And then everybody always wonders what they look like inside. So getting back to what I mentioned, that they're glamping, and they truly are. They all have their own bathrooms inside. And these are two examples of hotels or of the tents that I saw. But, I'm also I'm terrified of bugs and spiders and stuff. I have never seen them in these tents ever, because I thought, ooh, a tent, I'm for sure going to see something. I didn't. So I don't know, Kathy, did you get a chance to stay in Wadi Rum when you were there?
We did. We actually stayed in the dome tents. What they called them something else. I'm trying to think of the name. We called them moon tents or something.
Okay.
But we arrived in the midst of a hailstorm. They had not had one in years, and we arrived during this. And then it cleared up by the time we got into our tents, and then it was gorgeous. It was bizarre. So I would say we didn't get the best experience with the tents because it was colder than normal, but it was pretty magical. I still loved it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it would be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I find the Bedouins so hospitable, and they, at night they make a big fire, and then they're singing and dancing, and it's fantastic. It's really quite an experience. And then we go to Aqaba, which is in the southern end of Jordan. And in case we didn't actually mention this, if you were to drive, just to give you a sense of the scale of how big this country is, if you were to drive direct from Amman to Aqaba, it would take you like no more than 6 hours if you just drove direct. So one of the things that I always tell people that I love about Jordan is you don't spend all your time in transit. Like I mentioned, you know, going from Amman to the Dead Sea is an hour to an hour and a half tops if there was traffic in Amman. So a lot of people actually spend their last night in Jordan at the Dead Sea and then transfer direct to the airport. So the country is nice and compact, but not to be confused with boring, because each city center, each destination that you're going to within the country is just completely different. So Aqaba is very much a beach destination, even though you wouldn't know that by this this picture that I'm showing you right now. It's also, and Omar, correct me if I'm wrong, but where Jordanians go to stock up on coffee and nuts and spices and electronics. It's kind of like the Singapore of Jordan. Is that right?
It is correct. It's a economic free zone, and basically it's tax free. That's what it is. And they made that city, they annexed it, and they made it that way so we can encourage investment into that city. And it's, again, and that could really help in a lot of cases around the world. But what ended up happening is that it did increase a lot of factories and things like that were built there, and then more commerce. But then also the Jordanians started flocking down to that city. So you'd go for a day or two on the weekend. You can also buy things a little bit cheaper, and you would spend the weekend there, one of the hotels and the beach. So it was created that way for Jordan. It's kind of needed, just because Aqaba is about, again, to correct that information earlier, so Avril, you could drive from the northern tip of the country to the southern tip, which is Aqaba, in about 6 hours. But from Amman, it's about 4.5 hours to get there. So it's actually very attainable. So to get Jordanians to go, but 4 hours is also long enough for you not to go for the weekend sometimes if there isn't enough incentive. So that was one of the things. And Aqaba is frequented by the locals. So it is actually one of the local spots for Jordanians to go to the beach. It's our only access to the Red Sea. Obviously, we have about 35 kilometers on the Red Sea. And then, well, obviously, aside from the Dead Sea, which is closer to Amman as well. So yeah, Aqaba is a wonderful place, also affordable, and also you could get affordable things to go and stay there. And you can also stay in luxury 5-star properties on the beach. So it's it has a very diverse product for all kinds of travelers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you go there and I stock up on nuts and za'atar and I just can't bring enough of it home. So this picture on the left you can see how big that is. That's cinnamon sticks. So I brought home 2 packages of those. So don't ask me what I'm ever going to do. Can you imagine ever using that? So I actually have them in my living room in a vase because I think they're gorgeous. And then this is just, you can see just this gorgeous Red Sea. Well, it looks very blue, but it is the Red Sea. And it's really interesting place because Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Israel and Jordan all hug this end of the Red Sea. So it's quite something at night when you're sitting in your lounge at the hotel and you're having a glass of wine out on the patio and you're looking out at the lights of all of those other areas. It's really quite something to see. And lots to do. Aqaba is known for its water sports. So these shots here, just to give you some sense of, all that's happening there, is really quite incredible. And then there's a golf course. This golf course is in a new development called Alaya. And Omar, you were telling me that it's the only one in Jordan.
Yeah, so this is a development called Ayla. And it is, Ayla, Ayla. So this is the only proper golf course, 18-hole golf course in Jordan. And it is in that development, it actually is by a lagoon. So they brought some of the water in for this development. There's a hotel already that exists there too. And there's some residential properties. They're going to build 2 more hotels there in the next few years. The idea is that, you're going to get sun and beach and water sports and some cultural activities as well on Aqaba. But then some people want to travel there and they want to do, you're traveling Jordan. There are two areas where you can rest, right? Especially for North American travelers. So when you're in Aqaba, you got the Wadi Rum nearby, you got Petra also nearby, and many other things. And in Aqaba, maybe you can relax and play some golf. While also in the northern part of the country, where the Dead Sea, you can go and do some more wellness and basically downtime, a little bit of downtime at those two areas. Because Jordan's got a lot, you know what I mean? Like when you're in Jordan, you're gonna, you wake up one day and you've been there for 7 or 8 days and you've done a million things, but you don't seem to really have a minute to just relax and kind of soak in the experience. And having those two, that was the idea, in when product development was happening, is that this is what you need to do. Like you need to maybe take a day, enjoy the beach, even though there's a lot of cool things to do in the desert, but then sometimes you just need to relax for a day so you can soak in the experience better as you go through. Mm-hmm. So that's really what it is, Aqaba. And again, if you're not into golfing, just don't go. There's a lot of other things to do, but this is one of the reasons why. And it's and the Jordanians have an appetite for golfing apparently, so that's one of the reasons why it exists. But anyways, added value.
Yeah. And why is my slide moving? No, don't do this now. Yikes. There we go. There we go. Omar, you were going to talk a little bit about this meaningful travel, and I think we're probably running a little bit short of time, so we'll move pretty quick. But do you want to just sort of frame this up for us, and then we can?
Yeah, for sure. So one other part when you're traveling in the country in Jordan, lots of people want to see more authentic experiences. Obviously, Jordan's got a lot of authentic things to see, and even the sites themselves. But if you want to meet real Jordanians and go see them and see what they do, you want to go to the Meaningful Travel Map, and it's on a website called golocalJordan.com, and it tells you about 12 social enterprises that we worked with as a destination. And there's so many more, but these are the ones that we wanted to highlight because they're, for the bookability. Like you want to make sure that you go in somewhere that the service is going to be really good too. Aside from just a cool or interesting experience, you want to make sure that it's also going to be handled properly. So those 12, you'll be able to see those locals, get to see what they do, get involved with them, help the local community financially as well, and go home with a real nice experience. So those experiences are kind of split into things like handicrafts. So you get to see how they do them and where they get the material and how they make it. So here, this is the weaving project at Bani Hamida, and you can go there and see how they do it and also get to buy these things. You get to go and say, I bought things that were made in Jordan. So we're just like any other destination. When you go into a shop, it's going to say, a lot of things going to say made in China, underneath. It's, unfortunate. But if you want to do that, it'll cost you a little more, but you're going to get something that's authentic. And then on the next slide, you can go on and see some of the experiences. This is Beit Khairat Souq. And again, this is just one example of a few more on the Meaningful Travel Map, where you get to go and to a local social enterprise where they make their own jams, they make their own, they press their olives, they can cook for you as well. And as well as they also have many other things that you can buy some handicrafts from that area. And again, these enterprises are located inside local villages, and whoever works there are locals, primarily females as well. So some are actually women cooperatives. And what you get out of this is also the one thing I could say and share personally is their food is phenomenal. Because this is like when, as a Jordanian, when I would go to my aunt's place or my grandmother's place as a kid, I remember, when you go in the spring, there are figs, just like, this lady right here has a basket of figs. I've had figs like those from the tree. You just pick it and you eat those figs. I've had their jams. They taste just like my grandmother's jam. It's really amazing. So as a Jordanian myself, I've been working with Jordan and telling people about what our product is. I don't think we have anything that can bring me back to my childhood and growing up in Jordan as much as these enterprises, because they're really bringing back all these things that we grew up with, or even our parents grew up with, that they wanted to tell us about it. So it's not just that, but it's really the meaning behind it. You're getting things. I could tell you this: whoever visited places like Bani Hamide or Beit Khairat Souf, I know lots of my friends in Jordan have not experienced these things. So you're really getting the real experience. And if you're there, spend time there. Don't go for a quick half-hour lunch. Go make sure you spend an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours if you can. Try to talk to these, these people that live in that village. And of course, make sure that you have a tour guide with you that can translate some of those locals don't speak English or French. So you would want that. Obviously, that's why you should call up Kathy and make sure that that's, that they can take you there, because they know exactly how this is gonna, take place. So they're not taking you anywhere that's not gonna give you a really meaningful experience. So this is really highly recommended in Jordan. And one of the most important parts, honestly, you could stay at a 5-star property and get pampered, but then you still want this, because this is what you're going to take home with you in memories. And this is what you're going to be telling people about. This is what's going to really resonate with you.
Yeah. People always say they go to Jordan for the history, but they stay for the hospitality, because the look on that lady's face is what you get from Jordanians. They're just so thrilled that you've picked their country to visit. They're excited to host you. They always say, "You are welcome here. You are welcome here. It's the nicest thing." And that pretty much wraps us up. These are some links, but Kathy, I'm sure that your people will reach out to you directly, and we can't thank you enough. So shukran. Thank you so much.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. What a great presentation, and it really brought back a lot of memories for me. And I can tell you, I did not stay long enough last time, so I will be going back. And absolutely, the food was just spectacular. And the people, I felt really privileged, because they would thank us so much for coming and for being part of their country and experiencing it. So that was really great. So that will wrap up for today. Next week, we are going to have Peter Bobrowski. And Peter is actually a speaker with Smithsonian and travels all around the world. And next week, he's going to be talking to us about his world travel. So he does some pretty spectacular around the world travel groups. And so it'll be really interesting to hear all about that. So thank you so much, Avril and Omar, for joining us today. And we look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.